Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to EBV NATCON Business Plan Competition Office Hours Lab number 4, titled Economic Model. This is fourth section of the business plan, and this section is very important if you're looking to show to your investors how you will be making your money and how many units or services you need to provide to be able to break even. So let me just go very quickly over the sections and subsections of the business plan. So you have one section on revenue drivers and profit margins. So here you want to summarize all the revenue incomes that you'll be receiving for your business, like where the money is coming from. I don't know if you remember the last session that you guys watched about the pet stores, and like 10% comes from, owners that only wants one-time babysitting and, and things like that. So here you really want to summarize the information. You want to subject like how many percentage just of sales come from certain revenue, and find your contribution margins here and do the weighted average on your contribution margin. Then you want to have sections on your fixed and variable cost. Here, as you have probably seen in the video on an economic model, is a section. It's like a little chart table where you list all your fixed costs and variable costs. Then there's also another section, operating leverage, and it's how it's implicated. Is this are you gonna run like a periodically fixed or variable? It's whether your cost structure is fixed or variable. It's like the higher the cost, the bigger the risk, and the bigger the reward, right? The lower the cost structure is, it'll take a long time to break even, but it'll be a lot safer. Right. Then you also want to have a startup cost, like put in a chart, or like a table, and list all the money that you would need initially to start a business. That's like one time you need. And you want to have overall economic model, put everything together, and show how the money is going to be making in revenue. Then you also want to have a break-even explanation here as well. Make a chart, make a things. I would also recommend, they haven't put in nuts and bolts, is I would break even for months and as well for the whole business, like when there's a break even. I'll go a little in detail if you want to know about that one. And then you have a last section is profit durability. Here is, put down like how's your profit stream, is going to be, is it solid, is it vulnerable, does it have any effect on concerns or with variable cost, or does it have any effect with any other situations that might be like barriers to entry, like my cost is high at the beginning because like to enter this industry it's very costly, right? But once I start making money, it's going to go down because I'll be making more and the cost will go down. For example, if you get in the industry that you don't have no connection with suppliers, and they'll only like charge you like 90%, that you have to buy from them all the product that you need to be able to create your own service or product. And then once you've been in the year for in the business, or 2 years in business, then those suppliers will come back to you and say, okay, we'll give you like now they'll sell you for 60%. Now you can decrease your variable cost, which means you can decrease your pricing. So that's what it means in profitability. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. Okay. Can everybody hear me, or am I on mute?
No, I can hear you just fine, Alice.
Okay. Okay, so Eva has a question. Can I get a reminder about the section so I can pull the questions I had for that? So this section is an economic model. It's all about your revenues, like where the money is coming from, what's the percentage sales that you have, what are the margins between your products or services that you have, and how do you calculate your break even. So pretty much this is all about this section. Does everybody have any questions? I know this should be a lot of questions. If not, I'm gonna give you guys an example on how to go about doing it. It's all about finding, like how to break even here. Questions? No? Okay, Lawrence has a question. He says, Do you recommend both listing numbers of units sold and times or months until break-even point in the business plan? Yes, but make sure it's clear and understandable. You have to say, like this how many units I'm looking to sell. That will break me even. This how many units a month. So if you're talking about units, make sure you list down, okay, this how many a month, this how many in total I'll be able to make. And when you're talking about months and units, like be realistic. Can I really sell this many units within this month period? Yeah, definitely use both, but like I make sure that it's clear, it's separated. So don't mix and match. Don't mix like dollar signs and units, because that will make the judges confused. Any other questions? Copy, thanks. Okay, so Lawrence is good. Okay, so does everybody know how to break even? Let me ask you that. Do you know calculations? How's it done? Yes, no? We're good on that one? Okay, guys. You understand what's fixed cost and what's variable cost? Give me thumbs up if you guys get it, right? So we're good. So fixed cost is all the things to be able to run the business. Variable cost is it affects within product or services. Okay, so have you have a question from John? A quick question. So if you have a new business, what is the best way to estimate your cost? My business will be a technology startup for e-commerce. So the best way to estimate your startup cost or the cost of your services or product? John. So, okay, so let's see the startup cost of your whole business. You have to dig in a little deeper because you gotta find out, okay, to file as LLC, you gotta look into, in your state regulations, rules, filing fees, lawyer fees. So this one will be for filing and fees and business licensing, right? Insurance, like if you're gonna need any insurance, you're gonna call the insurance agent, find out the quote, like this much for insurance, and on goes. Like I'm gonna need a laptop, maybe go to Best Buy, find out like how much is a laptop, so you have information on how of supplies, how many you need. I hope that answers his question. Okay, we have Ava. So for the fixed and variable costs, should I do two separate figures? Might be using vocational rehab to cover most of my fixed costs in regards to equipment. Should I do business plan with those figures taken out and one of it? You should have a section. I would recommend do them in one, but like fixed costs is to be able to run the business, like office supplies. Right here they include labor, like wages, salaries and things like that. Equipment, anything that you're going to depreciate, anything to run the business. The variable cost comes into play of providing a service, providing a product. So I want to give you guys examples so we can go through example, very easy one, so you guys can understand. So let's say I'm looking to open up a burger shop, right? We all know it's a burger shop, and let's say I'm going to sell burgers. So let's say my fixed cost, like let's say a place, restaurant, to sell the burgers with the utilities, with all the, paying employees, let's say everything else comes out to $1,000 a month. Fixed cost, $1,000 a month. Got it? Now, let's talk about how much do you want to sell the burger for? $6? Everybody agree on that one? Good? So we sell the burgers for $6. Now, the variable cost of this burger is what does it take us to make this burger? Lettuce, like a meat, buns, and all the stuff. So, and let's say it takes us $2 to make the burger. So that I also found out in what was the thing? It's in nuts and bolts. It's a thing like you gotta go by your industry standard, like a pricing. So in a restaurant industry, your variable cost should not exceed like up to 30% of your retail price. So find out like when it comes down to costing and pricing, look at your industry, like what's a variable cost barrier that your industry can hold. So in restaurant industry, it should not exceed 33%, like 30% of your retail price. So if you're selling burgers for $6 and it takes us, $2 to create it, what's the contribution margin? Does everybody know that?
He is. He lives in Chicago. Right? He actually supported.
Contribution margin is the difference between a retail price and variable price. So the contribution margin for a burger would be $4, right? Now, we have $1,000 a month in our fixed costs. So to figure out how many burgers do we need to sell to be able to break even for that month to cover that $1,000. So what we do, we take $1,000 and we divide by 4, our contribution margin. Everybody follow? So we come up with, what, maybe 250 burgers that we have to sell, correct? So now you say, okay, we have 250 burgers to sell a month to be able to cover $1,000. Now you want to look at, okay, 250 divided by 30 days, that's 8 burgers a day. Is that reasonable? Is that realistic for us to be able to sell that? Now you want to look into, like how real are we with ourselves? So selling, 8 burgers a day, how realistic it is.
I don't understand it, but
so it's pretty realistic, right? One lunch can even cover that. But somebody argue and say, like, okay, so you're not going to work 30 days a month. So that's fine, let's say if we work 20 days a month, divide by, so 250 burgers, divide by 20 days. So it gives us 12 and a half burgers a day, which is still a reasonable amount to sell every day for 5 days a week to make our break-even point. So that's the thing. But I think when it comes into business play, when with you guys, you might have different revenues coming in. So this was just selling burgers. So let's say, what if we had drinks, fries, right, and burgers? So we have like a couple streams of revenues coming in. So then what we do? Then we have to wait it out with like sit down and figure out, okay, how much sales are we making from burgers, right? So let's say that's 70% of sales we're making from burgers. Then we look at down and say, okay, how many percents are we making from drinks? So let's say we make 20% from drinks, right? From total sales, we like 20% comes from drinks, and another last 10% comes from fries. So now when you have like a 3 source of revenues coming in, then you want to look into, okay, what's our weighted average? So for example, let's say we know our contribution margin for burgers, if we sell it for $6, it takes us $2 to make it, it's $4, correct? So let's say for fries, we sell fries at $3 and it costs us $1 to make it. So let's say that's $2 contribution margin, right? And for the drinks, let's say same thing, $3, $1 to make it. We end up with $2 contribution margin again. So now we mentioned, we said for burgers, it's 70% of sales coming in. So to calculate your weighted average for contribution margin is, you say, 0.70% times 4 contribution margin, right? That will gives us like 2.8 of contribution margin for weighted average. Then we do for the other ones. We do drinks, 2 contribution margin times, we said drinks are 20%, times 0.20, that will give us, 0.4 for contribution weighted average. And then we go for fries, and we said fries was 10%, so we say, 0.10% times 2 contribution margin, that will give us, 0.2. So then you add those up, and it will give you total weighted contribution margin of $3.40. So that will be for total. Now you say, okay, let's take, $1,000 a month. So now we have 3 streams of revenue coming in at contribution margin of 3.4. So $1,000 divided by 3.4 brings us down to 294 units to sell, right? So we're looking at 294 units to sell a month to be able to cover this. So if you say 294 divided by 30 days, brings it down to 10 burgers a day. Like we say, nobody works 30 days, so let's say 294 divided by 20 days a month. They'll bring down to 14 burgers a day, which is still reasonable enough and realistic for us to sell. Now, that's I talked about monthly breaking even. That's how you can figure out. But let's say the ones that they want you to put in a business plan is to cover the startup costs. Like when do you pay off your debt that you loaned for the business? So let's say, for example, we mentioned $50,000 it takes us to start this burger restaurant. Okay? So $50,000, now we say $50,000 divided by, we have three sources of revenues. Remember, burgers, drinks, and fries, right? 70% comes from burgers, 20% comes from drinks, and 10% comes from fries. So, and we said, total weighted average for contribution margin for these is 3.4. So 50,000 divided by 3.4 contribution margin will brings us down. We have to sell 14,706 units altogether, with fries, with burgers, with drinks. Now you want to figure out, like, okay, now I know monthly I have to sell 94, 96, what we said, right, to break even. Now we can say, okay, so now to break this even for the business, how many, now you want to think about, like, okay, how many can we sell a month, right? Like, what's our actual number that you want to aim to sell a month? Now you want to look at the, okay, so can we sell 500 a month, right? So we say, yes, let's sell $500 units a month. So 14,706 units that we have to sell total to pay off our 50,000 divided by 500 monthly. So that will give us 29 months, 20 and a half month, 29 months, 0.4, right? Divide that by 12. That will give us 2 years and 4.5 months to break even. Everybody copies for how we do this? It's very tough. Now you can go back and take this 14,706 and multiply it by 70%, and you'll find out how many burgers you have to sell. Multiply by 20%, you have to find out how many drinks you have to sell. Multiply by 10% to find out how many fries you have to sell for the whole thing to break even. And then you can break those down even further. Okay, guys, I need some questions to be able to, I know I've been very quickly, so tell me what you don't understand. Okay, we have a Lawrence. Should we factor our salary into the plan for the first year? And do you have any recommendation on what the judges consider reasonable salary for the business owners for bootstrap startup? Lawrence, if you're an individual in your business, do not put salary in. Put owner's withdraw and do a monthly or do a quarterly. I don't know how you do it, but like whatever you figure out. And when you take money out, make sure it's a reasonable amount. So like look at your living standards in your city and find out, okay, if this is my primary source of income, how much money would I need to take out to pay my mortgage, to pay my insurance, to buy groceries, blah, 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 and on and on. So that would be, things like that. If this is your part-time, you figure out just how much money would I need just take out to, extra on top of my income that I come in and bragging from work, and make sure it's owner's withdraw, not salary. Because salary, you would have to pay taxes and on and on. And you have to get your workers' comp and insurance and things like that. So if you don't have employees, don't put down as a salary, put down as the owner's withdraw. Okay, anybody else have any questions? So everybody understand how to break even. We good? Okay, guys, please tell me, because this is right now is it's time to talk about it. So to figure out the graph to break even, like I say, okay, so we have no questions on YouTube. Okay, that's good. I really wish I could show you this calculation so that way you guys can get a clear picture, but I'm hope you can rewatch this again and look into really deeply. So we all know what's contribution margin. That's the difference between retail price and variable cost. Fixed cost is everything that you need to run the business usually stays the same over the period of time, and variable cost changes as the volume of your product and services changes. So increases as you increase in the more products you sell, the more variable cost you'll acquire, kind of like that. Okay. So going back to startup cost, guys, make sure you have actual numbers. So don't. This is very important section when we talk about, and we'll probably cover in financial sections of this business plan. But don't pull numbers out of the thin air. That is not realistic. So make sure you're realistic. Make sure you have a backup factual data that you say, like, where do I get this number? So if you're talking about laptop, buying a computer, make sure you like have your appendixes. Like, these are the equipment that I'm looking to get. I'm gonna get them at Best Buy. Here's the pricing. Right? If I'm looking to pay insurance monthly this much, here's a company I talked to. Here's the agent I called. He gave me this quote. Eva, I have a question. So I may have missed the answers, but when you are estimating for the break-even analysis, the amount of traffic you're getting, how do you estimate it, especially if you're in a niche market that hasn't been explored much in your area? So remember in the industry section, in the research and the market section, we talked about estimating your market based on your competition and based on your competitive advantage and how much you're looking to steal of the market. So you based on that, that's how you estimate how much of sales I'm looking to get, pretty much. And you also estimate, on a location, on average, other competitors, how much they make. So you can always based on that. Anyone has anything else? Okay. So is everyone clear on breaking even? Because this is the biggest thing here in this section, is you got to show your investors, where the money is coming from, what's your profit in it, and how many you need to sell to break even, so they can get their money back. Pretty much that's what they're looking for. It's like, like how long is it going to take for us to get our money back? So that's why this section is very important. Okay, anybody else? Okay, where does insurance falls variable or fixed? Insurance is going to be fixed costs because you're going to split it. Usually like insurance company will give you premium. I'm not an insurance agent, but they will probably give you premium like $2,000, for a whole year, and then you split that in a monthly cost, And that will be a fixed cost. Every month I pay this much, or every quarter I pay this much. Should be a same amount. The variable cost is associated with the product or service. So yeah, so Lawrence shared a good calculator for the break even. So make sure you guys check it out and see how it works. But variable cost, like I said, in a burger. So if you have a hamburger, the variable cost of this hamburger would be things that go into the making of the hamburger, like buns, lettuce, tomatoes, meat, ketchup, mayo, and all this stuff. So all this stuff is variable cost of the burger. The fixed cost would be things to run the business, like utilities, rent, what else? Like labor, salaries, insurance. So pretty much like you can have a chart, whatever your business requires you to run that, and it's going to be requiring every month, so it's fixed. Even miscellaneous expenses are coming to fixed expense. You're going to be putting money aside in case of emergencies or something like that. Okay, Joseph has if I'm not looking for a loan, do I reflect that or show real numbers as if I was going for one? If you're not looking for a loan, you still have to come up with the startup cost, because you want to show for yourself how much money am I investing in my business, right? So do estimate everything. So when you do like a startup cost estimate, my rule is should not exceed $1,000 above or $1,000 below. It's like it should be very precise. So when you're looking for like a certain things, like what do I need? Equipment. research it out, go on a certain website, where can I buy it, for how much, add it up and say equipment will cost me this much, what I need. So even if it's your own money, you still gotta do this because you'll know how much money you're investing, and you can know like when you start making money once you break even. It'll take you, like if like I mentioned with the burgers, if you have a restaurant, burger shop, if we invest 50,000 of our own money, we want to know like when do we start making money. So when do we pay this back? So we mentioned, we're gonna break even in 2 years and 5 months. So after that 2 years and 5 months, then the profit will actually start coming in to the business because we just paid our investment that we put it in. Okay, Eva has a question. Can you explain industry benchmarks? So industry benchmarks is something that you have to research it out, and usually, like I say, libraries are good options. In industry benchmarks, for example, I mentioned the restaurant industry. It says the variable cost should not exceed 30% of the retail price. So that's, if it does exceed, which means like you're going to be losing money within this business. So 30%, let's say if you're selling something for $10, so making of that product or service should not exceed $3. That's what it means. And each industry has its own benchmarks towards the pricing. So if you look into, like, research it out, you might find the answers there. So that will give you a certain exceptions come into play, like I mentioned in your business section under the operating leverage and implications. It says, like, is this going to be cost structure high or low? So expect, the thing is, sometimes you have to say, I know I'm not gonna get to 30% of my variable cost because I'm a new entrant in this business, right? I'm new and I don't have connections with my suppliers. I don't have good credit for my business, so I have to start with what they give me. So suppliers might give you, only 90%, or like, let's say 10% discount only to buy the materials that you need to create your product, right? Instead of other competitors that they've been in business for years, they get like 40% discount on the products. So like, you cannot compare yourself to them, but you can say after a year they're gonna give me the same discount too. So at the beginning, my variable expense is gonna be very high and it's high risk, right? But after a year I'm gonna get that 40% discount, and then I'll be able to lower my cost and lower my pricing. So those are the exceptions that you can make in your case, but make sure you explain that to your judges if they're looking to say, like, okay, my industry, it says 30%, but I'm new and there's entry to barriers and I cannot find suppliers for my products or services. So I have to go with this, and they told me, like, after being, a member for 2 years, I'm gonna get discount more, so that I'll be able to lower and get more money out of my products. Okay, that explains it. Good. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions since we're on the topic? So it's really good to guys to, whatever you don't know, please let me know. Email me as well at EAVDIC, and I'll be able to talk to you more about it and provide you with more information if you need any help. Okay, so we have from Frederick Little in the presentation talked about break even in terms of time, not units. Is there a good reference for how to do this? Okay, Frederick, I'm gonna go over again. So we talked about if we had a burger shop and we had 3 sources of revenues, which is burgers, drinks, and fries. And we mentioned, weighted average contribution margin for all those 3 was $3.40. And we mentioned to start this burger shop, in my example, it will take us $50,000, right? So with that $50,000, now we want to divide it by our weighted average contribution margin, which was $3.40, and then gave us 14,700 something units to sell, right, altogether. So now we figure out, okay, how many units can we really sell a month? And we said 500, so 14,700, something 6 divided by 500 a month that we can sell units. That will give us 29 months and a half, and that will convert to 2 years and 4.5 months. That's how the time works within break even. let me know if you get it or not. Pedro, I might have missed this, but I started up last year. How do I reflect the startup costs? Do I reach back or include cost expansions? So if you started last year, did you have your startup cost last year or no? So like usually if you did have your startup cost last year, you can always track back and look, look at your sales, look at your, fixed costs that you had for the month, and you can always recalculate it back. If you have not done any recording of the numbers and things like that, what you can do is go back and find out how much money did you invest in the startup cost, like how much did it take you to start a business, and then calculate everything over again and just subtract 1 year and say, okay, so if you talk about Burger Shop and says 2.5 years, and let's say you've been in business for 1 year, now you say, okay, it's going to take me, since I've been in business for 1 year, it's going to take me another 1.5 years to break even. Does that explain? I hope that it gets my point across. Like I say, you can always track back, see, like how much you invested already. Okay, anyone else have any other questions? So we're good on this section, hopefully. Like I say, this section is really good to have charts and just a little small description about them. So like visually, everything speaks here. Okay, Fredel said, yes, that's good. Okay, thanks. So I'm glad to hear that. So like I say, make sure you have some charts here, like fixed variable cost, put into a chart, and just make small paragraph, like describing it. Same thing goes for, startup cost, break-even chart, and calculations. So it's a lot of charts. It's good to put a visual, but like just do a small summary of, explaining how. The good thing in the video was about revenue drivers and profit margins. When you put like a over internet, I'm gonna make this much of sales. In dental shops, I'm gonna make this much of sales. In retail stores, I'm gonna make this much of sales. So it's always good to break it like that and say, here's my retail prices, here's how much it costs me to create a product, and here's my contribution margin, and here's how I calculate my weighted average. So you guys saw that in the video, right? So that's good. Okay, Lawrence, Richard, 2 to 3 pages for this whole section. Yeah, it depends. Like I say, don't count too many pages. Just make sure you present the information that is there, and make sure you don't do too much, just enough that is clear, that is understandable. But like I say, make sure like there's no. You always want to look at the way when you write. You always want to make sure like I answered every question that my investor, that my reader might have about this section. So that's how you want to do it. But it's good to have questions for them to ask you, but it's better to answer them in the business plan. Okay, Eva has a question. Also, someone asked if I had information on VA program. Eva Vag. Okay, can you explain a little bit about that one? VA program, like Veterans Affairs, or? Okay, so someone asked in chat for information. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring VA as, but Veterans Affairs programs, I mean, you can always check it out. And Jim, can you just post the Veterans Affairs website, and that might give him information, but I don't know if that's the question, but if it is, please email me and I'll try to get back to you on that one. Okay. Thanks, Eva. Okay, guys, so like I said, this is the time to ask your questions. Don't be shy. I'm sure everyone else is probably encountering the same difficulties, so please come forward. Make sure you you clearly understand this section, because this section is gonna demonstrate where your money is coming from, and is gonna have a big impact on the financial section of the business plan. So make sure you understand it very clearly. So if you don't understand any of the subsections in nuts and bolts, how to do, please, speak up forward. Make sure you do understand how to break even. Make sure you know what's contribution margins, how to get those weighted average contribution margins, how to get them. Like I said, that's sales, like how much percentage of sales am I making from each product. The last section, the marketing and research section and industry section, should be able to help you with that one. Just look at your competition, like how much of market do they have, and where my advantages are, and how am I looking to make my money from that. And you can always put in a little paragraph stating that like my sales are coming from burgers, because my burgers have unique sauce on them, and they're gonna be selling like crazy. You can always put that in before you to demonstrate like your percentage of sales that are coming from. Anyone has any other questions? Come on, guys. So, reminder of the business plan competition: make sure you submit all the requirements, intent to compete form and entrance certificate form. You can go ahead and submit those while you wait for December 7th to submit your executive summary and business plan, because all those documents needs to be submitted before December 7th. So make sure you do those before as well. That will help a lot. So you don't have to worry about it. If you don't receive any of them, if you don't receive one and you submit all the 3 rest, you still won't be able to compete. So make sure like we're really holding our firm and foot on that one. So we need all those things that we mentioned. Okay, Lawrence, I submitted our intent to compete form, but can we get a confirmation that you received it? I can send a confirmation out, but I did receive it, so I know I received it from Lawrence, so that's good. So don't worry about it. It goes through, and if you need a confirmation, just let me know. Send an email to EBV tab and say, did you get my intent to compete form, and I'll say yes or no. But usually it goes through. Okay, guys, any other questions? Thinking through? Okay, so let me see if I covered everything from the section. So we have revenues, drivers, profit margins, fixed or variable costs, operating leverage, startup costs, overall economic model, break even, and profitability. So I think we're pretty good. If you guys don't have any questions, I guess this will be it for this section. And if you do have any questions, then come back next time and you can ask him or email me. Okay, so John, if we need someone to look at our financial, is there someone we can send our to for critics? I'm always available, so go ahead and send some information over to my email, and I'll give you some feedback as well. And I'll probably look if there's somebody else out there that I can review them as well. So yes, I'm happy to give you feedback on how to go about doing that and like what is required. But make sure like we'll talk this in the financial section, but every number needs to have origin, like where does it come from. So make sure that is very important in the business plan. It's like each and every number that you put on there needs to have origin, like how did I get this number. So make sure you can answer that. If you don't put in a business plan, make sure you can answer it. So that's what the judges are going to be looking for. So when they look at the financials, they're like, how'd you get this? How'd you get this? How'd you come up with this number? Oh, how'd you come up with this percentage? So make sure everything that you put on a business plan, make sure it has its origin, like where does it come from? Make sure you understand that. If you don't put in a business plan, make sure you know how to answer it. John, okay, thank you. So do we follow the nuts and bolts format, or is there another format that is required? Please follow nuts and bolts for this business planning competition, because that's what judges are going to be grading you on, and that's how we're going to be hosting this competition based on. So nuts and bolts all the way. So if you don't have nuts and bolts, please let me know. I will send you a PDF file. Email me and I will send you a PDF file. Okay, good. Everyone else good? Anything that you need to know? Okay, Eva. One last question. I have found numbers from 2013 in certain portions of the plan and some that are current. is it okay if our sources are from different years? 2-3 years will not matter that much, but you always have to look into, like, has anything dramatic changed in the industry, or has anything dramatic impacted the industry? So make sure you, like, if nothing happened big within the industry within those 2-3 years, yes, you can use those numbers, and you can use a percentage growth rate of your industry. Is it 3% or whatever it is, and you can just add on top of that. So 2-3 years is really accurate data, so that's not bad, unless, like, stock market crash or recession happen, something big happens, so we cannot use it. So yes, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you sure we're good with this? This is really tough. I mean, you gotta know those numbers. So like I say, if you feel shy right now, you can always email me, and we can work one-on-one through emails, and I'll show you how to, if you don't know or don't understand any of these. If you need help breaking even analysis and things like that, just let me know, and I'll provide you with some examples. I'll work with you if it needs to be. Okay, guys, Jim.
Yeah, nothing else. There was one from Frederick. I'm not sure if you answered, but it asked if there was an example of how to chart the break even in reference to time.
Okay, let me just let me use a paper to draw a diagram, pretty much. And I'm gonna like show you like how to chart out. So it can be units. Years. So I don't know if you can see this, but it would be okay. This is very bad drawing, but the graph should be like this. You would have like a units down at the bottom, and you would have years here, and then you have your fixed cost across. It's like because fixed cost won't change. Usually goes every month is the same. Then you would have your variable cost, and like the line that intersects, it would be the break-even cost. I mean, if you watch the video on economic model, that would help out, and that's how you can drive. But like I say, you can also write a small paragraph about explaining it. How did you get it? I'm sure like once you identify your revenues and contribution margins and weighted average margins, that will be more than enough for them to understand like how did you get it. So I hope that helps Frederick. But the thing is, like I say, it's easy to drive once you know how it is. So for example, we mentioned we have 14,700 units to sell. Then we can do separate like this how many units we sell every month, and this is like the variable cost, like where we intersect. So like I say, watch the previous session. Towards the end of the previous session, they have the chart, and you can pause it and look at it and understand. If you still don't understand it, please email me and I'll explain it to you. That goes for everyone else. Anything that you don't understand, let me know and I'll. Yep. Thank you, Lawrence. Okay, so Lawrence gave us some good information. Make sure you guys check it out. And he has how to break even. Thank you, Lawrence. That's good. So please use these links. If you need to be able to, you can always contact Lawrence or let me know, and I'll probably provide you with the link as well. So Lawrence, you can email me these links so I can share it with everyone. Thank you. That's good. Okay, we have Fred. There are examples of this in the presentation, but not showing it in a reference to time. So like I say, once you know how many units you need to sell for the whole thing to break even. So we remember we talked about $50,000 for our burger shop, and we need to sell, 14,700 units. So once we know the units, how many you need to sell, then you have to think about, okay, what's my capacity, or not capacity, let's look at the, like, realistically, how many can I sell a month? And we to say, okay, for example, let's say we can sell 500 a month. So you're gonna say, okay, total units for me to break even 50,000, it's 14,706. And I can sell 500 months. So 14,700 divided by 500 every month, that will give us 29 months and a half, right? So that gives you time immediately. So you can break it like that and show somebody like the timing. And you say, okay, 29 months divided by 12 months, that gives you 2 years and 4 months. So that's how you will break your time down, if you know the units. But once you know the units, you got to figure out, like, how many of these units can I sell each month? Does that understand? Like, if you don't understand it, please email me and I'll explain it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, like I say, anything, I know sometimes I talk very fast, so if you miss anything, need refreshments, just email me and I'll be able to work with you. Okay, anyone else has any other questions that we can go over? Okay, so we have from Fred, thanks. I was just trying to not get into PowerPoint, Excel, help by using an existing format, not building one from scratch. Yeah, like I said, don't do too much. Even if you just show break-even chart in units, you can do like that, and then just write a paragraph about how the time affects in it. Like you can say 50,000 divided by this many weighted average contribution margin gives me this many units that I need to sell over the period of time, and if I can sell 500 a month, it will give me this many years to sell it, and that's pretty much it. So you don't have to make another chart. You can just make one chart and just explain the rest in writing format. Okay, guys, so like I say, once you start working on this section, and if you need any help, you can always reach out to me at eavdic@syr.edu. So don't feel afraid. So we good? Okay. Thanks, Elvis. Thank you guys for being here, and our next session is next Tuesday, so make sure you tune in as well, and we'll be covering what's our next session after this? These operations. So probably I'll see you later. So our next session is on Tuesday. It's going to be the marketing plan. All right, my favorite. So we'll get to do some marketing work. I have to go about marketing your product. Okay, guys, so no more questions. We're going to probably call it for today. And see you Tuesday, right? Jim, any other more questions?
No other questions, Elvis. Sounds like it'll be good on Tuesday.
Okay, guys, so I'll see you Tuesday. Like I say, if you do have any questions, please email me. Let me know. I'll be available through email. And if you don't understand anything, like have to come up with your contribution margin, have to go about your variable cost or fixed cost or weighted average contribution margin, just email me, let me know, and I'll work with you to make sure you understand that. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and enjoy the day. And I'll see you next Tuesday.